to the GetInsight podcast, powered by artificial intelligence and created for educational purposes.
Great to be here.
Today, we're scrubbing in. We are heading straight into the high-stakes, high-pressure world of the operating room, the ICU. And I want you to just picture a scenario for a second. It's one that, if you work in hospital operations, it might give you a little bit of anxiety.
I think I know exactly where you're going with this.
It's 7 a.m. The patient is prepped. They're nervous. The anesthesia team is scrubbed in. The surgeon's looking at the monitor. The clock is ticking. And then, nothing.
Silence.
Or worse, that angry little error, beep. A critical piece of equipment just fails. Maybe it's the anesthesia machine or the surgical table won't unlock.
That is the absolute nightmare scenario.
And in that moment, the entire energy of the room just shifts, doesn't it? You go from patient care to, crisis management. The procedure gets canceled or at least delayed. The family in the waiting room needs to be told, which is a conversation nobody wants to have. And the whole surgical schedule for the rest of the day.
It just topples over like a row of dominoes.
Exactly.
It's chaos. It's incredibly stressful. But here's the thing about that chaos, and this is what we found so interesting digging into the research for this deep dive, that chaos is often a result of structural decisions. That scenario, that whole scene, it's a symptom of a very specific mindset. It's the results of what you could call a firefighting culture.
Okay. So our mission today is to figure out how a hospital can move from fixing things when they break to making sure they never break in the first place.
Precisely. And look, if you're a biomed or an OR manager or procurement lead listening to this, you get the tension right. You've got budget on one side, patient safety on the other. The core insight we found is that uptime. Having that machine ready to go at 7 a.m., it isn't luck. It's a manufactured product. It's a result of strategy.
So it's a choice you make long before the patient even enters the room.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's get into the mechanics of that strategy. The sources sort of lay out a hierarchy of maintenance. It's not just a binary broken or not broken.
Right. Think of it like a maturity model. How mature is your organization's relationship with its own technology? At the very bottom, the lowest level, you have reactive maintenance.
Which is the default for a lot of places, I'd imagine.
It is. The industry calls it fix on failure. You basically wait until that red light flashes or gear strips, and then you scramble. You call the hotline, you panic.
And I think the common assumption there, especially from maybe the finance side, is that this is the cheapest way to do things. You're not paying for a contract you might not use. You just pay when something breaks.
And that's the illusion. It feels cheaper in the moment. But reactive maintenance is actually the most expensive way to operate.
Let's unpack that. Where are all these hidden costs coming from if I'm not paying a monthly fee?
It's what they call cascading inefficiency. It's not just the cost of the replacement part or the tech's emergency hourly rate. It's the operational blast radius.
Okay.
When a machine goes down unscheduled, you have clinical staff just standing around, often on overtime. You have patient throughput grinding to a halt, which hits revenue hard. You have the admin scramble to get emergency purchase orders signed.
You're not in control.
Not at all. The equipment failures are dictating your entire day.
It's like waiting for your car tire to blow out on the highway instead of just changing it when the tread gets low.
That is a perfect analogy. The tire costs the same either way, but the tow truck, the missed meeting, the danger, it all makes the reactive choice infinitely more expensive.
And in a hospital, that missed meeting is a patient's health.
Precisely.
So if we want to step up a level from that chaos, we get to preventive maintenance. This is the standard, right?
This is the baseline for being professional, yeah.
Yeah.
It's scheduled care. It's like changing the oil in your car every 5,000 miles. You have a checklist, a calendar, and you do the maintenance at set intervals, whether the machine looks like it needs it or not.
It definitely beats waiting for the engine to seize up.
Oh, absolutely. It identifies wear and tear before it becomes a catastrophe. It extends the life of the device. But
there's always a but.
It's still operating a bit blind. You're servicing the machine because the calendar says it's Tuesday, not because the machine actually needs it right this second.
I see. So you might be replacing parts that are still perfectly good.
Which is wasteful. Or, and this is the really scary part, a problem could be developing between those scheduled visits.
Right. So if you check the machine in January and July, but a voltage regulator starts failing in April, you're just vulnerable for 3 months. You're crossing your fingers.
You are. Which brings us to the top of the pyramid. The sources call this the game changer. Predictive maintenance, or smart maintenance.
This is where we stop guessing and we start using data to see the future.
This is the shift from just scheduled to condition-based.
There's a specific tool called Fleet View.
Right. And we aren't here to sell software, but Fleet View is a really good example to explain the concept of how this all works in a modern hospital.
So what is it actually doing?
Think of it as a window into the brain of all your equipment. In the old days, and honestly, in many hospitals today, a machine is just a metal box in the corner. You have no idea what's happening inside until, smoke comes out.
It's a complete black box.
Exactly. Tools like Fleet View turn the lights on. It's a web-based dashboard. A biomed manager can log in and see the heartbeat of their entire fleet of devices.
So they can see usage patterns, like,
Ooh.
is this machine running 12 hours a day while another one is only running 2?
Exactly that. They can see battery health. They can see error codes that might be firing silently in the background that a nurse would never even notice.
There's a specific feature mentioned called Proactive Watch. That sounds a bit like surveillance, but in a good way.
It is. It's basically remote diagnostics on steroids. So imagine a team of technical experts in the control center, and they're monitoring the data stream from your devices in real time. They can spot a technical anomaly, maybe a tiny pressure drop in a sterilizer or slight voltage fluctuation in a ventilator, before the hospital staff even knows something's up.
So the nurse hasn't even reported a problem yet.
The nurse doesn't even know there is a problem. The machine is still running fine, but the data says it's about to fail.
That is wild. So what happens then?
The remote team alerts the local biomed or the service technician. They say, hey, Unit 4 is showing early signs of a pump failure. The technician shows up with the correct part, schedules the repair for a time when the room isn't booked, and fixes it.
So you turn a potential emergency at 7 a.m. into a planned maintenance stop at 3 p.m. on a Friday.
You've got it. You eliminate the last-minute service call. You change the entire workflow from emergency response to planned intervention. And that just brings a sense of calm to the OR.
The sources also mention this integration with something called the My Getting portal. This seems less about the machines and more about the humans managing them.
It's about reducing that administrative friction. If you've ever worked in hospital admin, you know the pain of hunting down a manual or trying to track a service history for an audit.
Oh, yeah. Or calling a hotline and sitting on hold just to find out where your spare part is.
Right. The portal is self-service. It's all there. Service history, digital manuals, request tracking. It just empowers the local team to manage their own fleet without all that administrative drag. It gives time back to the biomed so they can do actual engineering work, not paperwork.
It's easy to get lost in the dashboards and the sensors and 87% statistics. But one thing that really stood out to me in the source material was that at the end of the day, healthcare is still a deeply human business.
It is. And technology, no matter how smart it is only as good as the people who are interacting with it.
There's this really compelling case study in our stack from San Raffaele Hospital in Italy. It features a nurse named Paola Giulia Testa, and I really want to dig into this because it just grounds all this high-level strategy in reality.
It's a great story. So Paola works in the sterile processing department. Now, for listeners who don't know, this is the engine room of the hospital. It is hot, noisy, and incredibly high pressure. If the tools aren't sterile, the surgeries upstairs just can't happen.
It's totally invisible work until something goes wrong.
Exactly. And in the story, she recounts this specific incident. They had a malfunction. One of the washer disinfectors stopped working. Now, in a normal reactive culture, what's the immediate response?
The machine is junk, it's broken, call the company and yell at them.
Right. Fix the box.
Yeah.
But then the technician shows up, a guy named Ilya. And this is where that expertise piece of the puzzle really comes in. Ilya looks at the situation, looks at the machine, and he tells Paola, I am certain the issue isn't the machine.
That takes a lot of confidence. I mean, the machine isn't working. It's pretty bold to say it's not the machine's fault.
It takes deep, deep knowledge. A less experienced technician or maybe a third-party tech might have just started swapping out parts, hoping something worked. The old shotgun approach to repair.
But Ilya was right.
He was. It turned out to be an external issue. I think it was related to the water supply or utilities feeding into the machine.
Man.
But because he knew the equipment's behavior so well, he could identify that almost immediately.
Wow.
And Paola says something in the interview that really struck me. She said his confidence increased her trust. It wasn't just a repair, it was a consultation.
And the story didn't even end there. Ilya apparently spent time training the staff on how to load a rack correctly.
Which sounds so trivial. You think, just put the scissors in the washer. But in a sterile processing unit, how you load that washer determines if the water can hit the instruments correctly.
Ah.
If you load it wrong, the cycle fails validation. You have to run it all over again. That's an hour of downtime right there.
So by teaching them the right technique, he was preventing future failures that weren't really mechanical failures at all. They were user errors.
Exactly. This is what we mean by the operational safety net.
Yeah.
A good technician, especially one trained by the manufacturer, doesn't just fix the hardware. They upgrade the capability of the staff.
Yeah.
They spot the human factors that cause downtime. That's the real value. They become a partner, not just a wrench turner.
But, and here comes the difficult part of the conversation.
The money.
The money. I can hear the procurement leads listening right now. They're nodding along about ILIA and the dashboards, but they're also looking at their spreadsheets. They're thinking, okay, predictive maintenance is great, a dedicated expert is amazing, but these premium service contracts are expensive.
They do come with a price tag, yes.
So why not just pay for repairs as they happen? Keep that cash in the bank. Why is that thinking flawed?
It's a valid question, but it falls into the trap of looking at the purchase price instead of the total cost of ownership, or TCO. The sources call this the iceberg concept. The contract price, the check you write every year, that's the tip of the iceberg. It's the part you see above the water. It looks big, but the massive chunk of ice lurking below the surface, that is the hidden cost of the alternative. When you don't have a contract and a machine blows a major circuit board on a Tuesday morning, you suddenly have to find $5,000 or $10,000 immediately.
And in a corporate hospital structure, that is not like pulling cash out of an ATM.
No. You need approvals, you need signatures, maybe you need a committee meeting if it's over a certain amount. All that friction takes time. And while you're chasing signatures, what is that machine doing?
It's just sitting there gathering dust.
And while it's sitting there, you are canceling surgeries. And that is the biggest part of the iceberg. The cost of a canceled procedure is astronomical. You have the lost revenue, sure. But you also have the cost of the staff just waiting around. You have reputational damage.
That reputational damage is real. If I'm a surgeon and my cases keep getting canceled at your hospital because the equipment is always down, I'm going to take my patients somewhere else.
100%. If a premium contract saves you just 2 or 3 major cancellation events in a year, the math says it has already paid for itself. It's about ensuring your revenue stream, not just fixing a device.
There's also a big debate in the industry about who should do the service. You have the original equipment manufacturer, the OEM, and then you have third-party organizations. The sources here are pretty clear on their preference, but is there a logical, objective argument for why the OEM is better?
There is, and it really boils down to validity and long-term sustainability. The OEM has access to the original validated spare parts. That's a big one. But more importantly, they have the software keys.
And software is becoming the main component of these machines.
It is. A third party might be able to replace a gear, but can they calibrate the software correctly afterwards? Maybe not. But there's another incentive at play here. If it becomes clear replacing a device is more economical than maintaining it, the OEM will say so.
Wait, why is that unique to the OEM?
Well, think about the business model. A third-party repair company makes money by fixing things. Their incentive is to keep fixing that machine forever. Even if it's a 20-year-old zombie machine that breaks every single week, they will happily come fix it every week and send you a bill.
Because that's their entire revenue stream.
Exactly. The OEM, on the other hand, has a broader view. They can say, look, you are spending way too much keeping this 15-year-old table alive. It's safer and actually cheaper for you to upgrade to a new model. They're interested in the life cycle of the technology, not just the repair bill. It's about making sustainable decisions.
That is a really important distinction. It's about aligning incentives. But there is one more layer to this, and it's the one everyone tries to avoid talking about.
Let me guess. Compliance.
The unsexy, paperwork-heavy world of regulatory compliance.
It's not glamorous, but in healthcare, it is everything. We operate in a highly regulated environment. You can't just fix a machine. You have to prove you fixed it correctly.
This is the audit trail.
Exactly. If an inspector walks in from the Joint Commission or the FDA, or if there's, heaven forbid, a patient safety incident and lawyers get involved, you need bulletproof documentation.
You have to be able to show your work.
You need to prove that the spare parts you used were validated for that specific medical device. You need to prove the device is operating within its validated safety parameters. If you used a generic part from a third party, or you skipped a crucial software update because you didn't have the contract, you are opening the hospital up to massive liability.
So the service contract isn't just maintenance. It's basically an insurance policy against liability.
It's peace of mind. It ensures you're actually compliant. And frankly, it keeps the hospital administrators out of court.
Which is a value proposition all on its own. Okay, let's try to pull all this together. We've covered a lot of ground here. We started with that really stressful image of the canceled surgery.
The firefighting mode that just burns out your staff.
And we've walked through the solution. It starts with a mindset shift, right? Moving from reactive, just waiting for the failure, to predictive, using tools like Fleet View to see problems before they ever happen. Then we added that human element, the value of a trusted expert technician like Elia, who knows your workflow, who trains your staff, and who prevents user error.
Someone who becomes a partner, not just a vendor you call when you're in trouble.
And finally, financial logic, understanding that the price of that contract is really just protection against the much higher submerged costs of downtime and chaos.
It's that total cost of ownership view. If you go cheap on service, you're going to pay for it double in downtime.
So for the biomeds and the managers listening, the takeaway really seems to be that service isn't a commodity. You shouldn't just be looking for the lowest bidder to come turn a wrench.
No, absolutely not. Service is a strategic lever. It is a tool you use to guarantee safety and to guarantee cost predictability. If you treat it like a commodity, you get commodity results, which in this world usually means downtime. If you treat it like a strategy, you get uptime. You get a quiet, boring, predictable OR.
And in healthcare, boring is good.
Boring is fantastic. Boring means everything went exactly according to plan.
I like that. The goal of all this technology is to become invisible so that doctors and nurses can just focus on their jobs without fighting the equipment.
That is the ultimate goal.
So before we sign off, I just want to leave our listeners with one final thought to chew on. We've talked a lot about budgets and machines and dashboards, but I want you to think about your own hospital the next time you're sitting in a budget meeting, looking at a spreadsheet.
Go on.
When you look at that maintenance line item, do you see a cost that just needs to be slashed to save a few bucks? Or do you see an investment in the one thing you absolutely cannot buy back once it's gone time?
That's the question. Time for the patient and time for your staff.
Something to think about. That is all for this deep dive. Thanks for listening, and we will catch you on the next one.